There are only three certainties in life: death, taxes, and debating whether it was handball or not. And honestly, the reason the handball law has become so confusing is because it's changed so much over time. Originally, handball was incredibly simple. In one of the earliest editions of the laws of the game in 1903, it stated this: a player, the goalkeeper excepted, shall not intentionally handle the ball under any pretense. And that was the law. Simple. Did the player intentionally handle the ball? Yes or no? No making your body unnaturally bigger, no immediately scoring after it touches the arm, nothing about gaining advantage, just simplicity. And honestly, this old referee guidance is absolutely fascinating. In the 1912 Laws of the Game edition, it said, referees are required to make a distinction between intentional and unintentional handling, as there is no offence unless the handling is intentional. Stoppages of play for trivial reasons should be avoided, as they cause unnecessary delays and create friction. And then it goes on in the 1930s with this incredible line: it may be the line of least resistance to penalise a player whenever the ball touches their arm, but it is not justice to do so unless it is an intentional act. Imagine reading this out during a VAR debate. The game that we all love back in the day was built on a few things like common sense, referee interpretation, and a feel for the game. And for decades, the law barely changed. Through the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, carry on, the handball law did not change up until the early 80s. Because in the late 80s and early 90s, football had a wave of cynical tackles, professional fouls, whatever you'd like to call them. And the reason for this was because players were realising that they could commit certain offences and there would be no punishment other than a free kick. One of the biggest examples of this was deliberate handling to stop a goal. Most of us will probably remember the incident where Suarez deliberately handled the ball against Ghana, causing them to miss a penalty and advance Uruguay in the World Cup. But before this, handball was only penalised with just a direct free kick or a penalty if it happened in the box. So in the 92 to 93 season, football had its biggest change to the handball law yet. For the first time, law said, if, in the opinion of the referee, a player other than the goalkeeper within his own penalty area denies his opponents a goal or an obvious goal-scoring opportunity by intentionally handling the ball, he shall be sent off the field of play for serious foul play in accordance with Law 12. So a deliberate handball that denied a goal or a goal-scoring opportunity was classed as serious foul play. Nowadays, we have something called dogso, which is denying an obvious goal-scoring opportunity, and this was kind of the birth of that coming into law. And IFAB kind of codified that in the 1997 edition of the Laws of the Game, stating, denying the opposing team a goal or an obvious goal-scoring opportunity by deliberately handling the ball is a sending-off offence. Very clear, now written into law. You can trace so much of the modern refereeing philosophy back to this period. Things like SPAR, dogso, mandatory sanctions. Football kind of started moving away from the idea that free kicks and penalties restored fairness and that some actions required further sanctions. But honestly, I think everything changed in the 2000s when technology started to boom. We started seeing games with slow motion replays, multiple camera angles, freeze frames, and none of us ever saw the game the same way again. And if we fast forward to 2018, that's when VAR was introduced, and every single decision, including handballs, was under serious scrutiny. And I think football kind of realised that we really need to define what handball is. And so just 1 year later, in 2019, IFAB made one of the biggest rewrites in football history. And this is where the modern handball chaos really started to set in. IFAB said that greater clarity was needed in regards to handball, and this is what followed. It is an offence if a player deliberately touches the ball with their hand or arm, including moving the hand or arm towards the ball, gains possession or control of the ball after it has touched their hand or arm, and then scores in an opponent's goal, creates a goal-scoring opportunity. Scores in the opponent's goal directly from their hand or arm, even if accidental, including by the goalkeeper. Touches the ball with their hand or arm when the hand or arm has made their body unnaturally bigger. The hand or arm is above or beyond their shoulder level, unless the player deliberately plays the ball, which then touches their hand or arm. The above offences apply even if the ball touches a player's hand or arm directly from their head or body, including the foot of another player who is close. Except for the above offences, it is not usually an offence if the ball touches a player's hand or arm directly from the player's own head or body, including the foot, directly from the head or body, including the foot of another player who is close. If the hand or arm is close to the body and does not make the body unnaturally bigger. When a player falls and the hand or arm is between the body and the ground to support the body, but not extended laterally laterally or vertically away from the body. Does that sound like clarification to you? This is obviously a massive shift. Okay, phrases like unnaturally bigger. Well, what does that mean? Me and you are going to think something different, I can promise you that. So now we move from a place where players have to deliberately break the rules to just the arm position itself being an offence. And honestly, I think that's the point at which football fans started saying, well, what is handball anymore? Because football movements are natural. Okay, players slide, they jump, they turn, they fall, they put their arms out for balance. All of these things are natural things to do when playing football. But once you start freeze framing it and slowing things down, all of these things can look unnatural. And IFAB even wrote guidance on this. The law basically said, if your arm is above shoulder height, you're taking a risk. Now I understand why they tried this. In a world of VAR, we needed clarity on what handball was, but it takes so much stuff out of context. And about 6 or 7 years ago, I think we kind of discovered something really important about football, and that's that decisions are not objective. And handball especially is incredibly subjective, because what is a natural position? And that depends on things like movement, speed, distance from the ball, reaction time, ability. All these things come into it when making a judgment on whether something is handball or not. And that's why the law kept changing, because in 2021, I think IFAB had kind of realised they'd made a mistake. The updated wording actually defined what unnaturally bigger was. And that was defined by this. A player is considered to have made their body unnaturally bigger when the position of their hand or arm is not a consequence of or justifiable by the player's body movement for that specific situation. By having their hand or arm in such a position, the player takes a risk of their hand or arm being hit by the ball and being penalised. And then just before that, they say not every touch of a player's hand or arm with the ball is an offence. And I think that line kind of highlights the fact that we probably went too far. And IFAB also removed harsher accidental handball punishments. But even now, the modern law still includes made their body unnaturally bigger, not just intent. And honestly, I feel like that's why handball is so complicated today. Football's trying to turn a completely natural, fluid, contextual movement into an objective law. And I don't think that's possible, because no matter how many rewrites IFAB make, the referee in the middle will still have to make a subjective judgment. And maybe that's an uncomfortable truth for a lot of people. Handball isn't complicated because the referees are bad. Handball's complicated because, well, football is complicated.